What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Breakdown Podcast. I'm the host, Anthony Cava. Today we got a super cool interview. But before I get into that, I want to just give a quick little introduction to just the podcast in general. So before, it was like us sitting around just kind of talking about, events and things happening in the sports world, things like that. And I do want to say that's not going to go away. I will still be doing some solo podcasts like that, but for the most part, it's kind of going to be changing in more of a direction of I'm going to be having on former and current people that are in and around the sports world in general, just talking about their stories, current events, with athletics and such and stuff like that. So it's going to be more of that. Some are going to be more interview styled, some are just going to be more conversationally based and styled, that type of focus. But overall, it's just going to be more guest focused in general. Like I said, there's still going to be solo podcasts where I will do. There will be more of like the old stuff where I'm just kind of talking about current events and happenings in and around the sports world. But for the most part, it will be more guest focused. Also, I'll be having on just some buddies every now and then, probably to join me to be talking about same stuff as before. But for the most part, like I said again, it's going to be more guest focused for the most part. So now that that's out of the way, I want to get right into the introduction for today's guest. And so today I got to sit down with the former IBF super middleweight world champion, Caleb Truax. He won that title in 2017 with a massive upset victory over James DeGale in his backyard in London. And when he did that, he became the first world boxing champion from Minnesota in over a century. And over the course of his professional career, he compiled a record of 31 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws, with 19 of those wins coming by way of knockout. He fought at the highest level of the sport and shared the ring with elite competitors, including James DeGale twice, Daniel Jacobs, Jermain Taylor, Caleb Plant, and many others. We also talked about how he went from a former college football player to a boxer at 19 years old without having really ever seriously boxed before, which is honestly a complete and total rarity in pro boxing, especially among the greats and people that have won world championships. He also gave his thoughts on the current state of boxing and the influencer boxing like Jake Paul and many others that are now taking place and happening on big promotions. And he also shared a message at the very end about what he thought about Terrence Crawford's retirement. So we covered that stuff and a lot more. It's great episode, great conversation we had. I think everybody's going to really like it. So without any further ado, let's get right into it, baby. Caleb Truax, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. We got the former IBF super middleweight world champion, Caleb Truax. Caleb, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead. I like to do it chronologically. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. So tell us about, you grew up in Minnesota.
Mhm.
What kind of effect did that have on you early on? And, just how did that play into the man you are today?
Yeah, born and raised in Minnesota. I lived outside of Minnesota only 1 year of my life. I was a freshman in college in Virginia, and that's the only time I've been outside of Minnesota as far as living goes. But just born and raised, and love the state, love everything it offers. It's a great place to raise kids. I have my family here. We have 3 little ones. Actually, just came from my 1-year-old's 1-year checkup, and he's going to be the next heavyweight champ of the world. He's a giant. He's like 99th percentile on everything. So, yeah, man, I love it here. Except for the cold weather. The cold weather, it's not too bad right now. It's like 30 degrees, but last weekend it was like minus 20, so not that nice.
Yeah, no, definitely. I gotta get some snow tires on the cars up there for sure.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah.
so you mentioned being in Virginia. I believe that was you were playing football there, correct?
Yeah, I went my freshman year of college. I went to Virginia State University to play football. Was a football player in high school, a baseball player in high school, and those are the sports I played growing up. I played pretty much every sport, but those were my top 2 sports. And went to school in Virginia to play football, and ended up hurting my knee. And after that first year, I just came back to the U of M to just pursue my degree and not participate in sports anymore. And that's when I got involved in boxing actually for the first time when I was 20 years old.
Yeah, so you came back, after that injury. You kind of put football on the back burner at that point, and you started pursuing boxing. Was there anybody in specific that got you into boxing, or was this just kind of you doing your own thing?
It was kind of like a chance thing, man. I remember like just being at the University of Minnesota and working out and playing flag football and just being so bored that I wasn't competing in any sport. And one day at my apartment, my buddy Rob Sutherland and I were just looking through the City Pages, which is like a local free magazine, and they had an advertisement for a tough guy tournament. And I was like, man, we should sign up and do this. And signed up, and I got my ass kicked the first day, or first time I played, or first time I fought, and it was like 3 1-minute rounds at just like a local bar, and I was like dead tired after 3 1-minute rounds, and lost to the dude that won it. In the last year, and he won it the year I did it, and then I think I did one or two more after that, and then transitioned into amateur boxing shortly after, and was an amateur for like 3 years. Had like I think I had like 35, 38 fights or something like that, and turned pro.
Yeah, so real quick, I want to touch on the amateur career. So you enter this tough man contest. Basically, you lose that first fight, but you ultimately, you get more into it. You're getting deeper into it. You become an amateur. You start taking it, presumably, start taking it more serious. Where were you training at? Was it just a local gym or?
Yep. It was the gym that I stayed at my whole career called Likes ACR Boxing, and one thing that's not common in boxing is to stay at the same gym and stay with the same people, trainers and everybody. For a fighter's whole career, and I stay with my guys. I still love them today, but it was Likes ACR Boxing. Originally, it was in Anoka, Minnesota, and then we moved. I think two or three different locations. Moved to Coon Rapids and to Spring Lake Park, and then ultimately in Lexington, but the gym's no longer running anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then you also mentioned you had a pretty good, solid amateur record, racked up some wins, of course. You were training at your gym. At what point did it kind of become a thing to you where you were like, hey, like I want to pursue this as a career?
So it never did. It never did. I was in college and focusing on graduating, getting my degree, and at the time I think I had about it was like 38. I think my record was like 30 wins and 8 losses or something like that, and fought in some national tournaments, fought in the National Golden Gloves in 2006. After that I won the state title for USA Boxing, the regional title for USA Boxing, and I was just about to go fight in the National USA Boxing tournament in Colorado Springs, and it came to light that I fought in one of those tough man tournaments, or some of those tough man tournaments, and that they ruled me to be ineligible to continue to compete as an amateur, and so it was either be done boxing or turn professional and continue to box. And like I said, I never really wanted to be a professional boxer because most of the guys I was around at my gym were just like journeyman fighters and guys that took fights on short notice for $1,000. And so that was kind of my the professional boxers I was around. And so I just was concentrating on my degree and never thought I was going to be a professional boxer. And at the time, I just wasn't ready to be done. So decided to turn pro.
Right. Yeah. So you say you kind of just decided to turn pro without much of like a thought behind it, but you turn pro now, and obviously these fights are going to start getting more serious. Did
Yeah.
that change? Did your let's just say maybe within the first 10 fights or so, did that training and the preparation before the fights, did that change and start to get more serious, or was it still kind of just a go?
Um, Yeah, I mean, when you're a professional, you got to take it a little bit different than amateur boxing. As an amateur, I was still in college and still working, work however many hours per week. I went to school full time and tried to get to the gym. I used to have to take the bus from Minneapolis to Anoka to go to my gym, and it was like a 3-hour bus ride, round trip
Wow.
to get to the gym, and I was doing that like probably 4 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, and I would like do my homework on the bus when I'm driving to Anoka, and then on the way back, and so it took it took a ways to get there, but uh, and once I turned pro, I was more focused on training and more focused on making this my career. But I always worked hard. I've been a person who grew up in sports and football and baseball and never was like the most talented physically, but I always had a really good work ethic, and that's what kind of separated me from other fighters and other people in other sports too. I just was able to outwork people, so it wasn't really like a switch for me to um, work harder as a pro. I was working hard as an amateur too.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that was actually kind of answered my next question, which was going to be, you got such a later start than some boxers. Some guys are boxing since the time they're, kids,
Most did.
basically. Right,
Yeah.
right. So basically, you just attribute your ability to be able to start late and still succeed at the level you did. You kind of just you think that it was just more of a matter of you just outworked these guys.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. I mean, I knew that my learning curve was going to be a lot steeper than people who have been doing it since they've been 6 years old or 8 years old. So I just had to work my butt off and in the gym and just outwork guys. And I was a good athlete, and I think that's most most fighters aren't. I mean, the people that I've run across, like they're athletic people, they're athletes in terms of boxing. But a lot of people that I fought at the level I was at, the only thing they ever did was box. They weren't athletes in other sports, and I was able to kind of translate the athletic ability and my approach to watching film and stuff like that to boxing, and that helped me a lot as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned, obviously, of course, again, you played football, baseball.
Mhm.
Did those, especially football, that's a contact sport, and I mean, you're getting hit every single play at some positions. Did that kind of fine tune your body in a sense to be that physicality of a boxing match?
Um, yeah, I guess so. Actually, surprisingly, baseball is the sport that translates to boxing, I think, better than any. I coach some fighters today, and the first thing I ask, whether it be a kid or a guy that's a MMA fighter that I coach that's learning how to strike, the first thing I ask them is if you ever played baseball before. Most unfortunately, most people haven't that are fighters, but it really really translates as far as mechanics go and just strategy, like swinging. Have you ever played baseball before?
I have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like swinging a bat, like I'm right-handed hitter, so swinging the bat, the mechanics are basically exactly the same as throwing a right hand. Just because everything starts from the ground up and your hips and your back and everything. So same mechanics basically as swinging a bat and throwing a right hand. And then also the way I teach strategy is I teach it like a pitcher would approach pitching to a batter. Whereas like you can have the fastest jab in the world, but if you don't have a changeup or you don't have a slider, eventually somebody's going to time you, and it's going to go 110 miles per hour the other way. So I use that a lot when I'm training fighters, and that's how I approach it. Like I got changeups and fastballs and sliders and off speed pitches, and that's why I had such a good jab, and it took me a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I want to kind of move into the the latter part of that beginning phase of your career. So now you're starting to rack up some wins, and you're getting into that contender spot almost, where you're going
Mhm.
to start getting these opportunities to fight these contenders, get your name out there. What was that like? Was there a moment where you were like, okay, this is this can happen, or was it just kind of like one
Yeah.
fight after the next?
Yeah, and I was fortunate to have a good promoter, have a good team, Tony Craigelco, Ron Like, Tom Halstead, Jim Marine, and I was moved faster than most people would have because they saw that I was a pretty good fighter, and also I knew that I started late, so I didn't have years to develop, like somebody would that had started with a longer amateur career. So I moved pretty fast and fought some good fighters early in my career, and I was a favorite obviously, but I was tested against different styles and punchers and left-handers and stuff like that. But um, the fight that really, I mean, I had a couple local fights that were pretty big against Andy Coley. I won the Minnesota middleweight title versus him, and I was a underdog in that fight. He had fought Andre Ward and Paul
Mm.
Williams, and he lost those guys, but good experience.
Right.
And a couple other guys locally I fought, but the fight that really kind of like the light clicked was when I fought Jermain Taylor. That was my first TV fight, my first like fight against a nationally known guy, and lost the fight. It was 10 round decision. I knocked him down in the ninth round, almost knocked him out, and was really close to beating a former unified middleweight champion. And at that point, I didn't know if I was good or not. I beat Minnesota guys, but never a national guy. And even though I lost that fight, it gave me just a ton of confidence going forward. Because like, all right, now I belong with these dudes, and I really, really ramped things up after that, and kind of switched my style around a little bit, and just went forward with a ton of confidence.
Yeah, so you talk about that fight. I mean, of course, that's a big thing with athletes. I think a lot of people don't realize that, nothing, you could be the same exact person the next day, but just like you said, knocking down a guy that was a former unified, obviously has to give you all the confidence in the world to let you know, like
Yeah,
reinforce that, that notion.
yeah. Just kind of let me know that I belong with the best. And he Jermaine Taylor, when I fought him, people thought he was on the way down, which he probably was. But after I fought him, he also won the IBF title, and again, like he beat Sam Solomon and won the IBF title after we fought. But so he was still a really good fighter, even though he wasn't the Jermaine Taylor that beat Bernard Hopkins. So that gave me confidence. And like I said, I also kind of switched my style up a little bit after that fight because I was more of a counter puncher, and I waited too much. And against guys in Minnesota and lesser competition, that worked. But I found out real fast, like against a dude that's been a world champion, and you can't just sit there and wait. So I got a lot more aggressive, and that's kind of when my style switched to being like a come forward, like I'd say aggressive counter puncher instead of sitting back and waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talk about Minnesota as well. I could be wrong here, but I thought I saw that it said on your first professional fight, was that at the Target Center?
Yeah, yeah. My debut was at the Target Center, and I mean, I grew up here, and I had kind of a big following for an amateur fighter that had only been doing it for 3 years because I was at the U of M and local kid, and I had success in the amateurs, won a few tournaments and stuff like that. So I had a pretty good following, but um, at the having a debut at the Target Center was crazy. I mean, it was a showbox card, and I believe it was Raphael Butler, a guy from Minnesota who was a heavyweight fighter. He was fighting Art Binkowski on showbox as the main event, and I think it was my promoter Tony Gregelko and Goose and Tudor that were co-promoting it, and so there was like 6,000 people at my pro debut. So it
Yeah.
was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. So I want to just go ahead and keep moving through this. So, by the way, I want to say that's pretty interesting too, how you kind of noticed you were able to notice in that Jermaine Taylor fight that like, hey, you can't. It's different when you're going against these world champs. Like
Yeah,
you can't. You gotta take it to them a little bit. Um,
yeah.
so so I want to ask two things. The first thing is um, what style of fighter, or even like body type of fighter did you least like to fight?
Um, like I said before, my team did a good job of developing me against every type of fighter, basically. Punchers, guys that are a little bit taller than me, um, left-handers. I don't know what, I think I fought probably like 8 southpaws in my career, which is unusual. And so I never had an issue fighting southpaws, just because I fought so many of them, and because my manager was a southpaw, and he, like, when he held pads for me, he'd hold pads as a southpaw, so I was used to that angle, and he was good at kind of just telling me what what advantages they had, and we worked at it a lot, from early from the start of my career. But I didn't really like. I guess speed. That's everyone's problem. Speed was the one that thing that bothered me the most, because I wasn't the fastest of fighters. I had really good timing and was smart and could outthink people, but I wasn't the fastest. And I think speed was probably the number one thing that gave me issues. But that gives everyone issues. So
Right. Yeah, and then I also want to ask the second question was as far as the weight part goes, how did you how did you choose your weight class? Was there any weight cutting involved, or was that your natural weight?
Yeah, I when I first turned pro, I turned pro at 168. Or when I was an amateur, let me back up. When I was an amateur, I fought at 178 as an amateur, and I didn't really cut any weight. I weighed like 185, and would cut to 178 or just drop to 178. And when I turned pro at 168 with the intention that I was going to work my way down to middleweight 160. And I'm a pretty big guy for 160. There's never anyone that was bigger than me at middleweight, except for I think maybe a little bit taller, but not as big as me. And so that was a pretty tough weight cut to get down to 160. And as I got a little bit older, I moved up to 168, or back up to 168. And I mean, I always had to cut weight. I weighed 185, 190 when I walked around, and cut to 168. When I fought at 160, I tried to stay around 180, so I'd have to drop like 20 pounds. But that was always I like to eat, and I'm a fat kid by nature, so that was always not a struggle, but something I did enjoy doing when I was a pro. And now I'm a bridger weight. I don't have to worry about cutting cut weight no more.
Enjoying the retirement, yeah.
Yeah.
So was there any um before I get into the title fights, was there any weight cut, or if there wasn't a weight cut, was there any camp in general that was a little tougher than the others?
Um, no, not yeah, not nothing that sticks out as far as camps go. Weight cuts. Um I remember I fought a guy named Patrick Perez who was pretty good. His record was like I think it was like 25-7 or something like that. And I was probably I don't know, 11-0 or something like that. And he was a good fighter. He fought a couple guys that were decent. I think he got like a draw with I forget who he got a draw with. He got a draw with a good fighter. Um, and that was a fight that was in July, I believe, and I was sick. I was sick up and almost up until the fight, and I remember just like trying to cut weight for that fight, and I was just dying, like it just wasn't coming off, and I felt like crap because I was getting over something, and that camp sucked. That weight cut sucked. And in that fight, I was kind of like lethargic, and he was doing pretty good, and I ended up knocking him out. I think in the seventh round, seventh or eighth round, and I remember afterwards, my promoter was like, "All right, that now we got something with this kid," because I was trying to test him, and he was sick, and kind of persevered and knocked the guy out. So that one sticks out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So just moving along here, and then I'm gonna get now into, so you kind of have that breakthrough we talked about. You kind of knew fighting a former unified and Jermain Taylor, like, hey, I can hang with these guys. So
Yeah,
so you rattle off a couple more wins, and then boom, you get the call, DeGale, and this is the big moment. And of course, it was a big underdog fight for you, but
yeah.
I'm sure you at this point have all the confidence in the world because even getting that title shot in the first place, you got to have supreme confidence. So talk to me going in his backyard and taking the fight to him. What was that like?
Yeah. I was so hungry at that point because I just had my daughter, and I had a couple fights that fell through before that. I just bought a house, just had my daughter, and had a couple fights fell through, and I was like broke going to London, man. I remember like going to London. I had like $500 in my account or something like that, and had to borrow money from one of my coaches to I think I had like a mortgage payment to make, and I he borrowed me like $1,200, and uh, I just didn't have any money, man, and a young kid, a house that I just bought, and like I said, those fights where I was counting on the money fell through leading up to that, and so just like determined and hungry, and I knew I could beat him. I knew I wasn't going to be able to outbox him, but I just from watching the film, I watched a lot of him versus Badu Jack, and him versus some of the other fighters that he fought, and we put together a good game plan. I'm like, I can beat this dude, man. I know I can if I make it into a dogfight and just pressure him and don't let him box. And so going over there, I was super confident, super hungry, and just determined to change my life, man. And I did, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, so just take me through that fight itself. What stuck out to you? What maybe surprised you or didn't surprise you? And then, immediately after the fight, getting that belt wrapped around your waist, what was that like and the early aftermath of it?
Yeah. Well, one of the memories I'll never forget is because I've never had this happen before, like um, in the locker room where uh, so I'd never been to London before, never been like to Europe or anything before, and so before the fight, it was me, my trainer Tom Halstead, my manager Ron Like, and my promoter Tony Gargelko, and my strength coach Josh Hutton. We were all over there, and normally after a fight, they ship you out first thing in the morning. And because I had never been there, and my coach had never been there, we decided to like stay an extra 3 days.
Hmm.
So we like had the promoter book our flight for 3 days after they were supposed to do it, and we are gonna see London and do whatever. And I remember like in the locker room, everything went great leading up to the fight, the press conference, and everyone was really cool over there in London. Fans were great, and I remember like in the locker room thinking, warming up, like, God, this is gonna suck if I lose this fight and have to like stay here for like 3 more days. In my head, oh, this is gonna suck, man. What was I thinking? And went out to the fight, and obviously fight starts, and things were going my way just from the get-go. I was My game plan worked perfect. I wanted to put pressure on him, and I think I probably lost the first couple rounds on the scorecards, but uh, the fight was going the way I wanted to. He was backing up the whole time, and I was putting pressure on him. He's having to work really hard to win those the first round or two. And yeah, I get back to the corner, and my trainer's like, "This is perfect, man. This is exactly what we wanted. Even though I'm losing the round,
Hmm.
perfect, exactly how it's going. It's unfolding exactly how it needs to be for me to be successful later in the fight." And as the rounds went on, I just wore him down, and I think fifth round is when I hurt him and almost dropped him, and he was tough as hell to withstand what I gave him in the fifth round. But yeah, then everything was kind of going downhill.
Yeah. Yeah. So you smell the blood in the water, you saw,
Yeah,
like
sure,
you
yeah.
said. So yeah, so just take us after you get that belt, your immediate reaction, if you can even remember it, and then just that early aftermath of it, how life kind of
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the bell rings, I just drop to my knees, like I put my head on the ground, and I knew I won. There's no way that they were gonna be able to justify him beating me in that fight because I kicked his ass, man.
Right.
And um, then we're waiting for the scorecards, and the first scorecard is a draw, and I'm like, oh my God, they're about to rob me. And you can see me just like go like that in the on TV, and then the second scorecard is I think it's 115 to 112. So seven to five, but they gave me a 10-8 round for the fifth round when I beat him up. And so my
Right.
brain is like, my Minnesota math is adding up in my brain, like, oh, this is me, dude. I got this. And then obviously I win. I just drop to my knees, and I always used to I always used to make fun of fighters for crying. I used to make fun of fighters for crying in the ring afterwards. And man, I was crying like a little baby.
Yeah. Yeah, so boom, you win. I'm sure you were happy then that you booked those next 3 days and you're
Yeah,
gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
Uh,
me and my trainer were strolling around London like the King of England, man.
yeah,
And yeah, I don't remember too much of that, to be honest.
yeah.
We went to the pubs and we're hanging out, and in London, everyone, boxing is a major sport, so like everywhere I went, people are like, "Hey, let me buy you a drink, great fight," and I'm like, "All right, sweet." So I had a good time.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna move on now to you kind of now you're the champion, right? You come back home, you're the champion. Um, was there any surprises to how this media attention you were getting now? The changes in maybe the fight offers, and then of course the DeGale 2 fight, but this time we got it in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it was a whirlwind, obviously, like with all the media stuff, and locally, I was known locally, just for being kind of like the top dog in Minnesota boxing. But this, like, 10x that, and so tons of media stuff, sponsorship opportunities, and it was yeah, just a whirlwind, man. Like, getting home and seeing people coming up to you and recognize you more so than normal. So it was cool. It was rewarding, and then I guess with the second fight, we kind of knew there was going to be a rematch right away, so there wasn't any other offers really. It was just into the Gale too, and it was I think it was only like the first fight was in December and the second fight was in April, so it wasn't too big of a span in between. It was nice to have it in the United States, in Las Vegas, but yeah, man.
Yeah, so and that's kind of what I wanted to wrap this part up with is some people say the winning the belt is of course a huge deal and it's hard, but that
Yeah.
maintenance, especially that long-term maintenance of keeping up with it is can be draining for some guys with the media, just constantly fighting the top dogs of the division. What was your outlook on that? Did you like the new media attention or was it draining? And then, how did you look at that challenge of these top contenders?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. Like I said, I had a good team around me, a good family and friends, so I didn't let it get to me. I also had a friend of mine, Sean Jensen, who used to work for the NFL, used to work for one of the local newspapers here, and I kind of hired him to take some of that pressure off of me, to where he would come on board, or he was not come on board, but he was on the team, like, and he would really help me out as I got closer to a fight with media stuff, and all the scheduling would go through him, all the sponsorship stuff would go through him. So I just took that off my table, or took that off my plate. So he helped me out a lot with that, and just being grounded and level headed didn't affect me too much.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so in that DeGale 2 fight, like you said, you got to have it in the US. Now you're the defending. I'm sure again, if your confidence was here, now it's, through the roof.
Yeah.
Same thing, just talk about that fight a little bit and what that was like for you.
Yeah, that was awesome opportunity. Like a bunch of people from Minnesota went out to Las Vegas, and obviously the fight didn't go as I wanted it to go. I thought I should have won, and they gave him the decision, and which I thought was wrong. But yeah, it was a performance where I wish I would have done a couple of things differently. Wasn't my best night, but I still thought I won, and he got the win, and I got the decision, and yeah, I wish I would have had a third match with him.
Yeah. Yeah, so after that, you still had a pretty impressive next couple, rattled off some more fights, and then you get I want to talk specifically about the Quillin fight. You got
Yeah.
that obviously in Minnesota too, which is a pretty big deal. That's pretty cool. What was the build up for that fight? Was that kind of a fight that you had been planning for after the DeGale 2 fight?
Yeah, so that was part of the big PBC on Fox uh, unveiling, I guess. So they had a big press conference in Las Vegas where they had announced a bunch of fights, and that was one of them. And Quillin, really good dude. I actually sparred with him out in LA. This is probably like 2012 or 2013 when he was getting ready for his first world title fight that he ended up beating. I think he beat Hassan Endam, and so I boxed with him for like a week out there. And after boxing with him, I wanted that fight. I could beat this guy, and however many 7 years later, I got the opportunity, and it was at home at the Minneapolis Armory, which is a great venue. The only thing that was shitty was I got hurt before it, and I ended up tearing my Achilles. And so I went into that fight with a not a ruptured Achilles, but like a tear in my Achilles. And then obviously in the fight, I got blasted with a headbutt in the second round, and stopped on no contest due to the cut, which was a disappointment. Obviously, I wanted to get the win there. And in the rematch, or we were supposed to have a rematch. I don't know how many months later it was, but my Achilles just didn't heal the way it was supposed to, so I had to pull out of the rematch. So never got to actually like have a proper fight with him, which would have been a good fight. We matched up well, same size basically, and he's a big puncher. I'm a better defender, and it would have been a good fight.
Yeah, so you mentioned obviously this injury now. We're getting towards the definitely the later part of your career, but it seems like you're still able to fight at a high level, of course. You're putting on good shows. You're going, toe to toe with some very good fighters. But then in 2021,
Mm.
like I said, you got the post injury and everything, but you get a title shot against, of
Yeah.
course, Caleb Plant. So just tell me
Mm.
about the lead up to that, how that materialized, and then yeah, just tell me about that fight in general.
Yeah, that was different because it was in the bubble during COVID.
Right.
So I fought in Los Angeles with no fans there, and couldn't leave your hotel room, and it was strange, but a great opportunity nonetheless. And Plant is a good fighter. We had a little trash talk over the years, and uh, if I would have backing up, like the winner of me versus Quillin was the mandatory for him. So if I would have won that fight, I would have fought him in 2019. I ended up fighting him 2 years later, and with an Achilles that wasn't the same. And so I was just a little bit older and a little bit slower. And he's got that speed. Like I said, he didn't have anything that bothered me other than his speed. But I wish I could have had that fight when I was a couple years younger and healthier, and I think it would have went differently. But yeah, he was one of the better fighters I've ever faced, especially just with his great jab and his speed was top notch.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned, of course, like you said, you if you would have got that fight, maybe with a better Achilles a couple years earlier, but nonetheless, you still, went to decision with him. So obviously nothing to hold your head down about. But so you say that's interesting to me though. A lot of people see these like big names, Caleb Plant, Peter Quillin, DeGale. So like we talked about earlier, Jermaine. Uh, they're expecting you to kind of say that, the top of the notch guys, these top of the top cream of the crop guys were the hardest hitters or, the hardest fights you had.
Yeah.
Was that true for you? Like who was the hardest fight?
Um, the most the the most physically demanding fight was my my first 10 round fight against a guy named Kerry Hope. And that was in Minneapolis or in St. Paul here in I think 2012, 20 something like that, 2011. And it was for like the WBF super middleweight title, just a small title. But I was supposed to fight Carl Daniels, the old veteran, and he had to pull out. And I was actually in training camp with Kerry Hope, not too long before that, and we were in Big Bear, California together, and that's where he lived and trained. And he was in fantastic shape. He wasn't a very big puncher, or not a big puncher at all, but in fantastic shape. And I he filled in like within like 2 weeks, 2 weeks notice, and completely different style from a guy I was supposed to be fighting. And I remember like that was my first 10 round fight against a guy that had been training in Big Bear, living in Big Bear up in the altitude, and the first like 6 rounds, I think it was like I think I won the fight like 7 rounds to 3, or yeah, 7 rounds to 3. So like the first 7 rounds, I'm having my way with him, and then like the last 3 rounds, he's his conditioning's up here and I'm getting tired. And so he won the last 3 rounds and I ended up winning the fight. But I remember like after that fight, it was my first 10 rounder and it was demanding. And for like a week afterwards, I could barely move, man. I was just so exhausted and sore and beat up from it. But he was a good fighter. It was probably my most physically demanding fight. He went on to win the European middleweight title after that, and had a couple of big fights. But that was my most physically demanding one. And the best fighter I ever fought was Danny Jacobs. He was a good puncher and just fast, man. Like not the biggest puncher I faced, but the best puncher I faced, just because he could deliver it so quick and you couldn't see it coming. And he was a hell of a fighter, the best fighter I fought.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I mean, I always like hearing that from current and former fighters. You know, some people hear these big names and they think that's got to be the hardest fight, but a lot of the times it's actually not the case. It's the
Yeah,
guys that you may not know about. But yeah, I want to tell you real quick. That's funny you say Big Bear because like for people that don't know, like Big Bear, yes, is like that's like a hot spot for like Olympic athletes to train for that altitude.
yeah.
So yeah, there's no surprise there
I,
that
I think yeah, I was out there like 2 or 3 times for training camps, um, and it's crazy. I mean, the first time I was there, I remember I had just had a fight, so I was in great shape. It was like 2 weeks after one of my fights. I went out there to spar a guy named Enrique Ornelas. He was fighting Marco. Who was he fighting? Marco Antonio Rubio for like the shot to fight Kelly Pavlik for the middleweight title. And I went out there, it was probably 2007 or something like that, 2008, and had just fought, was in great shape, ready to like spar with my first big name, and or not big name, but my first like top fighter, and was getting paid for sparring and for the first time and all excited and get to Big Bear, go to sleep, wake up in the morning to go for a jog, and after like 3 blocks, I was like, I can't fucking breathe, man. Dead tired after like 3 rounds of sparring.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so after this, obviously, you know, media wise, definitely, at least media wise, one of your biggest fights was, of course, that plant fight towards the end of your career, and then you had how many fights did you have after that? Was it just a couple?
After Plant, I think it was only one after Plant, I believe.
One. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I fought in 2021 against Plant, and then COVID hit, and COVID really sucked because it was kind of like my earning prime, and I was supposed to have a fight in Germany that got canceled. I was gonna possibly fight David Benavidez, and that didn't pan out. And uh, it was like almost 2 years, maybe more than 2 years. Yeah, it was like January 2021, and then I didn't fight again till June of 2023, and that was my last fight.
Yeah, that's what I thought it said 2023. So yeah, so talk about what was that decision like to retire, and talk about now that you were in retirement,
Yeah,
how you can reflect on that.
yeah. I'd always made it clear to my coaches, like, if I don't have it anymore, don't coach me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and my coach was honest with me, like, hey man, like, I'll tell you, if you look like you don't have any more, you're getting hurt and whatever, we're not gonna be one of those fighters that hold on just to make paychecks and end up getting hurt mentally or physically, whatever. So the decision wasn't hard, and leading up to my last fight, like, the camp was fine. I felt great in sparring and felt great in training. And then I remember, like, the guy I fought, his name is Burley Brooks, and he was an okay prospect. Had a couple losses and a little bit bigger than me. He was a light heavyweight, and I moved up to light heavyweight to fight him. But 4 years prior, it's a guy that I knock out in 2 rounds. And I remember, like, getting in the first round, feeling good, and being able to see everything coming and just not being able to pull the trigger. And after like round 2, I was just like, shit, this
Yeah.
sucks. And yeah, whatever, it was what it was. And I knew in about round 5, like, it's win or lose, this is my last fight, man. I just can't do it at the level that I am used to doing it at. So I get done. I'm just like, my coach is like, that's it. I'm like, yep. Not, it wasn't even a discussion.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it sounds like it went a lot more, less confusion there involved than with some guys go back
No,
and forth. But
none at all, man.
yeah, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, though, you put in the work. Of course, you took chances when other people definitely wouldn't have taken them, and now you were able to sit back and kind of look at your career from a different view. Now, you can kind of sit
Yeah.
and take it in. So, what do you think was a big takeaway from boxing in your life, and how do you continue to try to give back to the younger generation as far as boxing goes?
Yeah. Well, now, boxing is so ingrained into my being that I approach everything like I'm a fighter. Like when I retired, I got into real estate and I'm a realtor now for it's been about a year and a half. It'll be 2 years in June, but I approach that like I approach fights. Like I outwork people and win. I raise my kids that way. I approach life that way. And it's just boxing is just shaped how I approach life, and it's not going to change. It's going to always be like that. And I was successful in one of the hardest things you could possibly uh, take up, and so everything else seems pretty easy
Yeah.
when I approach it like that. So I've been, a year and a half into real estate. I've been very successful and only growing and. Being a champion and having a huge network here in my home state that helps as well. But the main thing is just the attitude that I approach it with, and just winning like in boxing, and to stay involved in the sport. I've been training some fighters, lots of MMA fighters actually that are just learning how to or trying to learn how to strike better. So I go down to a gym once or twice a week in Prior Lake, Minnesota, called La Bodega Fight, and also a private gym called The Basement. One of the owners of La Bodega, Billy Simon, he owns this cool house that has that private gym in it. So I train a lot of guys that are learning how to strike. A lot of wrestlers that are pretty high level. I think there's one, two, three guys that I train that are in the UFC.
Mhm.
Um, Two of them that are probably going to be in the UFC shortly. Actually, one of them just fought last weekend, Steven Asplin. I've trained him a little bit. He just won the fight of the night and won his debut and a big heavyweight guy. So he's off to a good start. Tommy Peterson, I've worked with him. He's like a 6 fight veteran in the UFC. Guzzi Hines, he just had his first UFC fight. Gable Stevenson, the wrestler that was a gold medalist from U of M. I work with him a little bit to work on his striking. He's setting the MMA world on fire right now. So, and he's Isaiah
Yeah.
Gomez. He's a guy that's 1-0, about to fight in January, his second pro fight. I can go on. Ozzy Judge, old head, Xavier Judge. I train a bunch of dudes just to teach them how to strike, man.
Yeah, no doubt that's going to be an awesome way to stay involved in combat sports in general, and I'm sure that'll be
Yeah,
quite the ride in the retirement phase to just train with these
yeah,
guys. So,
yeah.
but but yeah, man, I guess I did have to. I wanted to ask you as far as boxing goes. Obviously, in 2 days we have a huge fight. How do you view these influencer fights? Do you think it's good for boxing? And do you have any comments on the Joshua Paul fight?
I don't think it's bad for boxing. I think it brings new eyes to the sport. I think, obviously Jake Paul is what he is. He's not like a real fighter. But or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. He is a real fighter because he puts the work in, and he's not a high level fighter. He is what he is. He's had 10 fights, and he's only been doing this for 5 years, and he's fought mostly guys who aren't fighters,
Right, of
but
course.
aren't boxers anyways. And but I mean, he puts the work in and takes it seriously. So if people are willing to watch it, good for him, man. And I think he's gonna possibly not be alive anymore after Friday. But
Yeah,
no, if he beats Anthony Joshua, good for him, man. I
yeah,
don't see it happening. I don't see it going more than a couple rounds. But I tell you what, like I told all my buddies that are asking me for my expert advice on the fight. So I just tell him, I'll tell you one thing. if he actually goes through with the fight on Friday, I'll never say another bad word about him because he's got bigger balls than I do going against Anthony Joshua.
Right. Well, and then on the heels of that fight as well, we also got the announcement of hopefully, I mean, they're saying it's going to go through, but hopefully we get to see Joshua Fury as well.
Yeah.
In whatever that'll be April. So that'll be a great fight as well. Obviously, two greats of the division. What do you think about that?
I wish it would have happened about 5 years ago. But I mean, it's going to be huge in London. I mean, they'll sell out the O2 in probably an hour, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, why not, man? Fury, I enjoy watching him. I don't like the way that things have went with his career with all the crazy stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
but um, but yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Like you said, I mean, it's always good to bring new eyes to the sport, no matter what way that's through. So I think it's on the up and up. I think that's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but other than that, anything else you want to shout out before we end off here? This is a great conversation we've had. Do you want to shout out any social medias or anything that you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, people can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook. It's my just Golden Caleb T. I've always enjoyed going back and forth with fans about the fights and everything, and that's one thing that I've had tons of comments over the years that I am more. I don't know what the word is. More, I I engage more with the fans and most fighters because I enjoy it. You know, like I like BSing about the fights that are going on or anything else. But yeah, at Golden Caleb T on Instagram or Twitter. Like I said, I'm a realtor now, so if anyone in Minnesota wants to look me up and needs to buy a house or sell a house, let me know. You can find me on social media or chrislindahl.com. Yeah. Other than that, man, thanks for having me, and yeah.
Hey, yeah, thank you, man. We had a great conversation here today, and I think everybody's going to appreciate this and like this one a lot. So thanks for being here, Caleb.
Yeah, no problem, Anthony.
All right, I'll see you, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, there it was. That was the interview with Caleb Truax. Hope you guys really liked it. I know I personally liked it. Great conversation, great dude. Other than that, I did forget to ask him. I completely forgot to ask him about the Terrence Crawford retirement and what he thought about it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up on the screen a couple of quotes he had about that when I asked him about it afterwards. So there's that. So you can go ahead and pause it now if you want to read that. But yeah, other than that, guys, yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. Next one should be up pretty soon. But yeah, got a couple different athletes from different fields for the next couple of ones. So it's going to be really, really good stuff. I'm super excited. I hope everybody else is. So yeah, definitely got some really good ones coming up. But other than that, yeah, that's going to do it for today's. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later.